Going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today we're going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors potentially trading for Nikola Vučević this offseason. The Golden State Warriors season ended last night in 5 games to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they need to address some things. And I think the biggest thing they need to address this offseason is the center position. Adding in some rebounding, I think is the number one thing for this Warriors team, and adding in a big man. And the guy we're going to be talking about today is 6'10" Nikola Vučević. I think he fits really well with this team because not only does he come in being the starting center for this Golden State Warriors team, which is 5 inches taller than the current center Draymond Green is. He's a 2-time All-Star. And you look at him, you look at all the other guys that are being talked about as potential fits to this Warriors team for them to add in at the center position. Look at Brook Lopez. Look at Clint Capella. I look at those two guys. I really like Brook Lopez. A little old, but I really like Brook Lopez. I, as a Rockets fan who watched Capella for years, I really like Clint Capella as well. And I've, paid attention to him as he went on to Atlanta. And I think both of those guys are good fits for this Warriors team potentially. But this is the guy that I think makes the most sense. Maybe you would say out of those 3 guys, Capella is the best rebounder. Right? Maybe even the best shot blocker as well. Actually, I give the best shot blocker to Brook Lopez. But you look at the guy of those 3 who's the best three-point shooter, and Brook Lopez is a great three-point shooter, but you give that to Nikola Vučević. And that's something the Warriors like. 40% three-point shooter this year, 35 career three-point shooter. He didn't start off his career as a great three-point shooter, but he's developed that shot as his career has gone on. And it's made him a better scorer as well. This year averaged 19 points per game. He averaged a double-double this year, something the Warriors didn't have. They didn't have a player that averaged 10 rebounds per game. And that's something that Vučević did this year, averaging 10 rebounds per game. And I don't think he's the best rebounder of the 3 guys I mentioned of Capella, Brook, and Vučević. I think that's Capella. But I think Vučević is a better rebounder than Brook. I think Vučević is also a better Vučević is a better three-point shooter than Brook. It's very close, though. Both are very good. And obviously, Vučević is a better three-point shooter than Clint Capella, since Clint Capella has never hit a single three-pointer in his career. He also hasn't attempted many either. But so Vučević could be a good fit. I think the only negative of trading for Nikola Vučević, adding in Vučević compared to Brook Lopez or Clint Capella, is you actually have to give up something. You're looking at potentially giving up Moses Moody, Trace Jackson Davis, and probably 2 or 3 second-round picks in order to get Vučević. Trace Jackson Davis this year had an off-and-on role as the starting center, started in 37 of his 62 games, 16 minutes per game, 58% from the floor, averaging 7 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. In the playoffs, he started in 3 playoff games this year, all in the Minnesota series, playing in 9 playoff games, 9 minutes per game. 89% from the floor was Trace Jackson Davis. That is on. Let's look on playoff. That's 16 for 18. But to be fair, a lot of those are tip-in attempts. Like a lot of those are putbacks for Trace Jackson Davis. But still, a very impressive 89% from the floor in the postseason, averaging 4.1 points per game and 2.3 rebounds per game. Look, he's a very solid young big man, but he's 6'9" and playing the center position. That's one thing I'll add. But he's 25 years old. He's got a young potential. He's got a solid potential. The other guy that you don't like giving up in this deal is Moses Moody. Moses Moody, I think, has to be in this deal. Salary-wise, and I think he's a guy Chicago would want. Yeah, he's 22 years old. He's a good shooter. This year from 3, shot 37% on 5 attempts per game. Averaged almost 10 points per game, 3 rebounds per game. So you've got to ask yourself, is it worth giving up the 22-year-old sharpshooter and the 25-year-old solid 6'9" big man and maybe a buttload of second-round picks? I think it's going to take 2 or 3 to get a sharpshooter center that helps with our rebound issue, our size issue, and all that. And on top of that, he's a good shooter. And then you'd have 2, 6'10", 6'11", or I think Quinton Post is 7 foot guy. You'd have 2 guys like that who are great three-point shooters. You'd have 2 really tall guys like that with Vučević and Post, who are both really good three-point shooters. And I think that'd be great. And then if the Warriors could potentially trade for Vučević, give up a bunch of seconds and, Moody and Jackson Davis, and then do a sign and trade where Kuminga goes to Brooklyn and they get Cam Johnson. And you might have to look at Draymond Green going to the bench. In that world where the Warriors trade for Vučević and he's their starting center, and they also get Cam Johnson, who's averaged 19 points per game, there's more of a scoring for this Warriors team. I think you'd want Johnson and Vučević in the starting lineup. Obviously, Curry and Butler are still starters, so that's where the question begins. Who goes to the bench? Is it Podziemski or Hield, whoever's starting at the shooting guard position, and then Johnson or Butler is playing at the 2? Or does Draymond go to the bench? I think it's more. I think it makes more sense if Draymond goes to the bench, but I just don't see them doing that to Draymond. So most likely you'd probably see Jimmy or Cam Johnson starting at the 2, and then Podziemski, and most likely then Podziemski and Hield would come off the bench. But what I would do is I'd put Draymond let's just say they worked out a sign and trade where Cam Johnson comes into Golden State for Kuminga. They trade for Vučević to finally get that big man. I think I'd rather start Podziemski, or Hield, because I think it's a good scoring lineup. And then you have your defense off the bench. Draymond's minutes don't have to go down. He just comes off the bench because you've got Gary Payton off the bench, who's a really good defender as well. I think those two are unstoppable if you put those two in at the same time defensively. So, but that would be interesting for the Warriors to try to figure out. If you finally add in an elite big man, and maybe you get a Cam Johnson for Kuminga, you'd have some decisions to make with the starting lineup, because I don't see a world where Vučević or Johnson would come off the bench. So let me know your thoughts on the potential trade for the Warriors in the comment section, and peace out.